In every corner of Africa, stories breathe, tales buried in dust, whispered through firelight. You're about to hear one of them. Welcome to African Horror Stories. Namibian Folklore. The ghost town of Kolmanskop. The woman in house number 12. The wind never stops in Kolmanskop. It whistles through broken windows, slides beneath warped floorboards, and carries sand into places where people once laughed, danced, and dreamed of becoming rich. In 1908, the German diamond mining town of Kolmanskop rose from the Namib Desert almost overnight. At its height, it had a hospital, a school, a theater, and elegant homes filled with expensive furniture brought from Europe. Then the diamonds ran out. The people left. But according to some who have visited the ghost town since, not everything left with them. This is the story that tour guide Petrus Naris claimed his grandfather told him, and his grandfather swore he heard it from one of the last workers who remained in Kolmanskop before the town was finally abandoned. The story begins in 1954. Johannes Richter was 26 years old when he accepted the maintenance contract in Kolmanskop. The mining company was shutting down operations. Most families had already relocated south. Johannes's job was simple: inspect the remaining buildings, catalog equipment, and prepare the town for permanent closure. The pay was excellent. The isolation bothered him less than it should have. He arrived on a cold July morning in a truck loaded with supplies and enough fuel to last several weeks. There were only 6 people left in Kolmanskop. By the end of the month, there would be only 1. The first week passed quietly. Johannes spent his days recording inventories, securing buildings, and fighting the endless sand that poured through windows and under doors. Every evening, he returned to the staff quarters, ate canned food, and wrote in his journal. The entries were ordinary. July 8th, wind stronger today. July 9th, cleared sand from hospital entrance again. July 10th, heard foxes outside after dark. Then the handwriting changed. July 12th, someone played piano tonight. There was only 1 piano left in Kolmanskop. It stood in the old ballroom. Johannes had locked the ballroom himself. The next morning, he inspected the building. The doors remained locked. No footprints disturbed the sand. The piano sat exactly where he remembered it. He convinced himself that the wind had caused the sound. The desert did strange things to a man's mind. That night, the piano played again. This time, Johannes grabbed his lantern and walked through the empty streets. The moon hung over the dunes like a pale eye. The melody echoed through the town, slow, beautiful, and impossibly sad. He reached the ballroom doors. The music stopped. He unlocked the entrance and stepped inside. The room was empty. Dust covered every surface. The piano keys were untouched, yet the final note still seemed to vibrate in the air. Johannes returned to his quarters before dawn. He did not write in his journal that night. A week later, the others left.
The foreman shook Johannes's hand. "One more month, then this place belongs to the desert." Johannes laughed. He would later remember that the foreman had not laughed back. Being alone changed everything. The footsteps began 3 days later. Not outside, inside. Every night, shortly after midnight, Johannes heard someone walking through the hallway of the staff building. Slow footsteps, measured footsteps, the footsteps of a woman wearing high-heeled shoes. Click, click, click. The sound would travel from one end of the corridor to the other, then stop outside his door. Johannes never opened it, not at first. Instead, he pushed his bed against the entrance and waited for dawn. Eventually, exhaustion overcame fear. On the 4th night, when the footsteps stopped outside his room, he threw the door open. No one stood there. But in the sand covering the hallway floor, a line of footprints stretched away into the darkness.
Small footprints, women's shoes, only one set, as though someone had walked into the hallway and never walked back out. Johannes stopped sleeping. He stopped shaving. His journal entries became erratic. July 26th, woman laughing near hospital. July 27th, saw someone standing at the theater window. July 29th, she knows my name. That final entry disturbed investigators years later because no one ever discovered who she was. On August 2nd, Johannes received a radio transmission. A supply truck would arrive in 3 days. He only needed to survive until then. That night, the storm came. The winds screamed across the desert with such force that windows shattered throughout the town. Johannes barricaded himself inside his quarters. Then he heard the piano. Not faintly, not from far away, directly outside. He looked through the window. The street was empty. The music continued. Then he saw her. A woman stood beneath the street lamp. She wore a white dress from another century. Her dark hair whipped around her face in the storm. She wasn't moving. She was watching. Johannes later wrote only 4 words about what happened next. She smiled at me. Against every instinct, Johannes opened the door. Perhaps loneliness had broken him. Perhaps fear had. Perhaps the desert itself had. The woman turned and walked away, not hurriedly, as if she knew he would follow. He did. Past the theater, past the hospital, past houses half buried in sand. She led him to house number 12, one of the oldest homes in Kolmanskop. The front door stood open. She entered. Johannes followed. Inside, the storm sounds vanished. The house was silent. He raised his lantern. The woman stood at the top of the staircase, waiting. "Who are you?" he asked. She smiled again. Then she walked upstairs. Johannes climbed after her. The upper hallway stretched into darkness. Room after room stood empty, but at the end of the corridor, one door remained closed. The woman stood beside it. She pointed. Then she disappeared. Not ran, not hid, disappeared. Johannes later claimed the air itself folded around her. Trembling, he opened the door.
The room was empty except for a bed, and on the bed sat a photograph, a young German woman dated 1913. On the back, someone had written, "If I die here, I will never leave." The lantern went out. 3 days later, the supply truck arrived. Johannes Richter was never found. Neither were his belongings. Only his journal remained, discovered in house number 12, beneath a layer of fresh desert sand. The final page contained a single sentence written over and over again, not in Johannes's handwriting, not in German, not in any language investigators could identify. House number 12 no longer exists. It was eventually consumed by the shifting dunes, but guides in Kolmanskop still tell visitors that on certain nights, when the desert wind is strong enough, a piano can be heard playing somewhere beneath the sand. And if you follow the music, you may discover that some residents of Kolmanskop never accepted that the town was abandoned.
That's all for today. If you liked the video, let me know by hitting like. And if you're new here, be sure to subscribe for more. You can watch another video of mine right here. See you next time.